My name is Otto, and I am 65 years old. At my age, life is supposed to become quiet. You wake up early, drink coffee slowly, watch the sunrise, and think about the years behind you rather than the battles ahead. But the day my nephew's girlfriend stood in my living room and calmly told me they were staying in my house permanently, I realized something very important. Peace only exists as long as you protect it. And she had absolutely no idea whose house she had just tried to take. A quiet life. I live in a small lakeside town where everyone knows everyone. After 40 years working as a civil engineer, I retired with enough savings to live comfortably but simply. My house sits near the edge of the lake. It isn't a mansion, but it's beautiful in its own way. 2 floors, a wooden porch, old oak trees surrounding the yard. My late wife, Helena, and I bought the land when we were young. We built the house together over many years, improving it piece by piece. Every wall carries a memory. The kitchen, where Helena used to sing while cooking. The porch where we watched thunderstorms roll over the lake. The living room, where we spent winter nights reading beside the fireplace. Helena passed away 7 years ago, cancer. After she was gone, the house became quieter, too quiet sometimes. But it was still my sanctuary. My home. My nephew arrives. My nephew Daniel had always been a good kid. His parents, my brother and sister-in-law, died in a car accident when he was 16. After that, I helped him whenever I could. Paid for part of his college, helped him find his first job. We weren't exactly father and son, but we were close. So when Daniel called me one evening and said he was going through a rough time, I didn't hesitate. "Uncle Otto," he said nervously over the phone, "could I stay with you for a little while, just until I get back on my feet?" "Of course," I replied, "your family." I thought it would be temporary. Maybe a month or two. I had no idea how complicated things were about to become. The girlfriend. Daniel arrived 2 days later. But he didn't arrive alone. Standing beside him was a young woman with long blonde hair, expensive sunglasses, and a look of quiet judgment. "This is Vanessa," Daniel said, "my girlfriend." She looked around the house slowly, like a real estate agent inspecting a property. "Oh," she said flatly, "it's rustic." That should have been my first warning. But I ignored it. "Welcome," I said politely. Vanessa barely smiled. Small changes. At first, everything seemed normal. Daniel helped with groceries. Vanessa stayed mostly in the guest room. But after about 2 weeks, small changes started happening. Furniture moved. My favorite chair disappeared from the living room. Pictures of Helena were taken down and replaced with Vanessa's decorations. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found the cabinets completely reorganized. "Vanessa likes things a certain way," Daniel explained awkwardly. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. They were young. They probably just wanted to feel comfortable. But comfort slowly turned into control. The announcement. One evening, about a month after they arrived, Vanessa called Daniel and me into the living room. She sat confidently on the couch like she owned the place. Daniel stood beside her, looking nervous. "We've made a decision," Vanessa said. I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of decision?" She crossed her arms. "We're going to stay here permanently." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" She spoke slowly, like explaining something obvious to a child. "This house is too big for you alone, Otto. Daniel and I need stability, so we've decided this will be our home." For a moment, I thought she was joking. Then I realized she was. The shock. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the idea was so absurd. "You've decided," I said. Vanessa nodded confidently. Yes, it's practical. Daniel looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. My heart sank. I turned to him. Daniel, this is my house. He rubbed the back of his neck. I know, Uncle Otto, but Vanessa thinks it would be good if we kind of shared it. Shared it. The word felt like an insult. Boundaries. I took a deep breath. Daniel, you're welcome to stay for a while, I said calmly. But permanently, no. Vanessa rolled her eyes. You're 65, Otto. Eventually this house will belong to family anyway. The arrogance in her voice shocked me. This is my family home, I said firmly. She leaned back with a smirk. Well, we're not leaving. That was the moment everything changed. The legal reality. Vanessa clearly believed something that wasn't true. She thought staying long enough would give them rights to the house. Maybe she had read something online about tenant protections. Maybe she thought an old man wouldn't fight back. But there was one thing she didn't know. Before becoming an engineer, I studied law for 2 years. And I understood property rights very well. Also, the house wasn't technically in my name anymore. The hidden truth. 3 years earlier, after Helena passed away, I quietly transferred ownership of the house. Not to family, not to Daniel, but to a family trust managed by my lawyer. The reason was simple. I wanted the house protected after my death, so no one could fight over it. But that trust agreement also gave the lawyer the authority to remove unauthorized occupants if necessary. In other words, Vanessa had picked the wrong house. The phone call. The next morning, I made one phone call. Good morning, Otto, my lawyer said. Good morning, Margaret, I replied. I think we need to have a conversation about my house. After I explained the situation, she sighed. You've been very patient, she said. Too patient. Would you like us to begin formal removal? Yes, I said quietly. The surprise. 3 days later, a black SUV pulled into my driveway. Vanessa watched from the window. Who's that? She asked. 2 people stepped out. My lawyer and a property officer. They walked to the door and knocked. I opened it. Good afternoon, Otto, Margaret said politely. Then she looked at Vanessa. You must be the guest who believes she owns this house. Vanessa frowned. What is this? Margaret handed her a document. This property is owned by the Helena and Otto family trust. You are not tenants. You have no legal agreement. Therefore, you are unauthorized occupants. Vanessa's confidence disappeared. You can't do that. Oh, Margaret said calmly. We absolutely can. Daniel's realization. Daniel looked pale. Vanessa, maybe we should just go. But Vanessa wasn't ready to lose. This old man invited us, she shouted. Yes, Margaret replied. Temporarily. She pointed to the paper. You have 48 hours to vacate the property. The aftermath. Vanessa stormed upstairs furious. Daniel stayed behind. He looked at me with regret. I'm sorry, Uncle Otto. I sighed. I wanted to help you. I know. But she kept saying if we stayed long enough, the house would become ours. I shook my head slowly. That's not how life works. He nodded sadly. I see that now. The goodbye. 2 days later, Daniel packed his things. Vanessa refused to look at me as she left. But Daniel paused at the door. You taught me a lot growing up, he said quietly. I hope you remember that, I replied. He nodded. I will. Then they were gone. Peace returns. The house became quiet again. But this time, the silence felt peaceful. I put Helena's photos back on the walls. I returned my chair to the living room. One evening, I sat on the porch watching the sunset over the lake. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. Sometimes kindness is mistaken for weakness. And sometimes the people you help forget who helped them. But there's one thing life has taught me after 65 years. Respect must exist before generosity can survive. Moral of the story: kindness should never mean surrendering your boundaries. Helping others is noble, but protecting what you built is just as important. And never underestimate a quiet old man who knows exactly what his house is worth.